Holy cats, you're back? We're back. This is the 48th episode of Become a Bat. And I will say I got my rocks off reading this story.
That's a good one.
Did you get stoned?
Yeah, I got stoned and then I got my rocks off. Of course.
Oh, yes. We got two stories here. The story of the 17 Stones and Destination Unknown. As you can tell, though, the first one was very rock themed.
It's pretty bad, but I like it. It's bad in a good way.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that story.
It rocked me to my core.
The second one, I was kind of, I don't know. We're gonna go a little experimental with this one. I wanted to change up the format. For the most part, we're gonna keep things the same.
Well, I'll explain why, because it's
Yeah.
it's like a weird fusion of like a couple different types of storytelling.
Yeah. But before that, we got some quick Batman news.
Yeah.
It looks like Batman Cape Crusader has been picked up for 2 seasons at Amazon.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's Amazon and not HBO, but I'm all for it because it means less interference from Warner Brothers.
Yeah, well, the whole thing was that Warner Brothers is cost cutting as much as possible, right?
They're outsourcing.
Yeah, they're basically outsourcing and they're licensing out the stuff to other studios because I guess that's going to be more profitable somehow.
But whoever ended up getting this was going to treat it like pure gold because it is pure gold.
Yeah, yeah. Part of me was kind of hoping that it would be with Apple TV, but
Yeah.
I think more people would, it'd be more accessible through Amazon. Though, yeah, WB's approach has been really weird because, like, a few years back, they started the DC Universe app, which is like where all of their DC stuff would be like in one centralized location.
Great idea, and then it utterly failed.
It failed, but they're like, okay, well, you know what? Screw it. We're doing HBO Max, where all of Warner Brothers, which includes the DC and HBO, got put into one app.
And I love HBO Max. I think it's great. It's like one of my top 3 streaming apps.
Yeah.
But
At its height, I think it was the best streaming app.
it was. At one point,
Yeah.
I was like, yes. And that was all I watched. But
Yeah. And then this merger happened with Discovery, screwing everything up. And now they're cost cutting as much as they can. And one of the ways is through outsourcing or, licensing out their stuff. So they're gutting HBO Max. So, you can't just reliably say, oh, all the Batman movies are here.
Yeah.
No. So things that were just like HBO Max originals too are just gone.
Or they're like heavily under debate right now as to whether they're going to get done or outsourced to some other streaming company.
Yeah. But you know what? So yeah, Batman Cape Crusader's fate was in limbo for a while, but thankfully Amazon picked it up. So
Yeah. And Mark Hamill won't come back for that show. Not that he needs to, because Joker probably won't be in it.
he might.
I mean, he could come back and play another character, but he said he wouldn't play Joker without Kevin Conroy.
Yeah.
So it'll be really interesting to see what kind of like approach they go for with that show, like and like kind of vocals they go for with Batman.
Yeah.
I really want them to do something more in line with like noir. Like where Batman speaks like he's an actual noir detective.
Yeah. I have a feeling it's gonna be more in line with the concept they had for Beware the Batman.
Yeah, that's a decent show.
Yeah, actually wasn't too bad. That studio did the Green Lantern show, which was actually
I love that show.
that was really good.
The Green Lantern show is like probably right up there, like my second favorite animated DC show, right next to Batman the Animated Series.
Wow, that's pretty high.
I like it a lot.
Huh. Yeah, I know. I want to rewatch that show, but I did really enjoy that one. It was way better than the movie. It was like a spin-off of.
Yeah, it was weird. It kept getting darker and darker and darker too.
Yeah, did you know? I forget his name. That one Red Lantern who joins them. He hasn't shown up in any of the comics at all, right? They never integrated in the main universe.
Yeah,
He shows up in the newest season of Young Justice.
weird.
And he's continuing his story arc from the Green Lantern show.
Because that show's great and people know it.
Yeah, so that was cool. Anyways,
Just briefly, let's touch on, because we haven't really talked about it.
Oh yeah.
Batman is now going to be 2 Batmans in one movie, potentially 3 in one movie with the new Flash movie.
Yeah.
Not that we're excited about the Flash, because we're not really excited about it at all. But
Yeah, I got really mixed feelings on everything going on there.
I'm not excited about it. I watched the trailer.
Yeah.
I saw the blue and gray suit. I saw all the cool bat suits. I'm excited about that, but I'm not excited about the movie.
Yeah.
So I'll go see it, and if it's great, I'll recognize that, and I'll apologize for any shit talk
I don't know.
I might have said about it, but
I don't know. Everything with that movie doesn't seem like it's a movie. It just kind of seems like it's more about like the behind the scenes stuff and
Yeah.
the tweaking of the film
You know,
and all this. That's more fascinating than the movie itself.
right. The one thing that actually, besides Batman, obviously, the one
Mhm.
thing that makes me really interested in the movie is the fact that like they're pitching it as like basically the next Justice League movie.
Mhm.
You know, like they're like all these characters are going to be in it. It's like this big crazy crisis type of movie,
Yeah.
which we haven't really seen yet. Like Marvel kind of did that with like Infinity War and Endgame, but it's not really the same. We still yet to see a live action movie that really does like that crisis where it pulls like the
Yeah.
different variations of the characters in and stuff. And
It just, I don't know. To me, it mostly looks like it's, even though it was like pulling the Flashpoint out of you, it looks like a remake of Man of Steel.
yeah,
But it's just gonna take everything that was great about Man of Steel and sand it down to
right.
something a lot friendlier
Stuff
and
that that other people
and
like.
and yeah, without Superman, the thing that you buy the ticket to go see Man of Steel for.
Right, like they literally took a plot line with Superman and turned it into a plot line with Supergirl. But
Yeah.
I get that it's the multiverse, so they can do whatever they want.
But that's the thing, though. Multiverse is like what? Screw it.
In the multiverse, it's always different variations of the same people,
I know,
right? You don't have a Supergirl who's Superman.
I know, but it's like but Flashpoint was a time travel movie, not a multiverse film.
I know. They're
I don't know.
they're effing it all up, but it still might somehow turn out to be good. You never know.
I know that Snyder opened up the idea, the possibility of Supergirl
Yeah, he did.
in one of the movies.
And that's probably why they're doing it, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's like a reference because it's supposed to be a love letter to the Snyderverse, even though it's going to kill it all.
Yeah, I mean, it essentially is like bringing it back in a weird way. But
yeah, it's tying it together, saying, "Guess what? It exists, but we're gonna fix it and we're gonna retcon the hell out of it."
Fix with a lot of quotation marks.
They're doing the same thing with this movie to the DC film universe that DC does to its own comic book universe, like every 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. We'll see.
It's interesting, but
I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna say anything else about it until I see it.
Yeah, but moving on to something really hot, which is this story from like 75 years ago.
Yeah.
All right, so this is Batman number 13, story 3, the story of the 17 Stones, art by Jack Burnley and Ray Burnley, written by Bill Finger. And
I like the Burnleys, by the way.
yeah, like this
They're
art
very
is
stylized.
yeah. Like I was reading this one and I just immediately like loved the art. It feels different than the Bob Kane art.
It really does.
But
Especially compared to the next one.
yeah, it's quintessentially Batman. But even though like Batman's kind of like the least compelling part of this.
We'll talk about that as we get into it, but you want to read this one? Do you want me to read the blurb and then you can?
Yeah, read the blurb and then I'll do the synopsis. Yeah, go for it.
All right, I'll do the whole splash page.
Oh, actually, okay,
So
go for it.
the Batman banner on the top of the splash page is almost like a negative
It is.
because the background is black,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Batman himself, like the wings and the mask is done in like a blue and black, and then the logo is done in red.
Yeah.
So it looks like someone just like flipped it into negative with Photoshop. It's pretty cool. And then we have the giant villain stereotype, right? So we have I can't remember his name. I know it's
Rocky
Rocky something or other.
Rocky Grimes.
Rocky Grimes, standing huge, like he's like towering over Batman and Robin, holding a giant rock over his head that he's going to probably throw down on top of Robin, and Batman's leaping off of like this giant mountain trying to stop him.
Yeah.
And then behind Mr. Rocky Grimes is a treasure chest full of gold and jewels. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go wrong with the giant villain covers.
No, you can't.
Okay, here we go. What's a stone? Just a bit of cold rock, emotionless, dead, unexciting? That's what you think. We'll tell you of a stone of many stories, of stones that expressed hate, revenge, evil. Do they sound emotionless? And here are stones that meant new life, narrow escapes from impending doom. Certainly, these are not dead stones. And again, in this tale are stones that brought on danger, perilous action, a tense manhunt. Does that seem unexciting to you? Then read on and learn how fate cast the first stone that decided a man's life and brought about the story of the 17 stones.
I don't think there were 17 specific stones in this episode.
I don't think so.
The title is like really random.
It's very
almost
misleading. They just went for the alliteration, the 17 stones.
All right, so get on this. I'm going to do the synopsis. The synopsis for this one is shorter because I'm trying to like shorten them up and make them a little snappier. So onto it. So, Rocky Grimes spends 20 years in prison for a crime he swears he didn't commit. He's got no memory of it. Despite that, they have his fingerprints. But he goes free, and when he's free, he's walking out of the prison. A car drives by, and a rock gets struck off the tire, and it hits him in the head, and his memories come flooding back. He remembers robbing a bank and killing a guard with his mob. When he finishes the job, a rock hits him in the head, and he loses his memories. His mob decides to pin the blame on him so that they can get away with it, since Rocky doesn't remember them. Perfect crime. Upon remembering how he betrayed them, they betrayed him, Rocky swears his revenge and decides to murder them all with ironic rock-themed murders. First, he uses a wire to crush Lefty Slade under a pile of keystone. He uses a touchstone to stab Finn Gonzi, the loan shark. He plans on crushing Mason the architect under a cornerstone, but his plan is foiled when Batman pushes him out of the way. Rocky gets away and burns Commissioner Gordon's criminal file cards on him. Batman uses some fancy lab techniques, and he's able to reproduce the files and figure out who Rocky is, and he deduces his plan for revenge. Rocky makes a bullet out of bloodstone, and he plans on shooting Brenner, which is another one of his mob guys, but Robin stops him. He runs out, manages to tie Robin up to a stone, and he throws him into the ocean, and then he ties Batman up to a chair, and then he decides to make him suffocate through burning sulfur. Batman frees himself with a grindstone and rescues Robin. Robin attempts to bash his last victim. Rocky. Robin. Rocky attempts to bash his last victim to death with a big log of petrified wood when he's stopped by Batman.
Not technically a stone.
Well, it's hard.
I know. He's really reaching for it at this point.
Yeah. Batman chases him over a gorge when Rocky falls off and ends up buried under a tombstone.
I like that. It's a fitting end for this guy who's
Yeah.
obsessed with rocks.
Yeah.
A couple things. One, Rocky is an actual name, which is great. You know, that his name's Rocky and he's killing people with rocks. But, why didn't you just have him call them rocks? Why is he calling them all stones? Or you could have named him, Jonathan Stone, and then he's killing people with stones.
I don't know, but I think, I think Rocky's also one of those names. I often think about how, sometimes a show or a movie will use a name.
Yeah.
And it becomes, very tied to that character.
Yeah.
And then you just can't really name, nobody names their kid after that. They can't use that name anymore because,
right,
they're going to be associated with that. So I think Rocky's one of those names.
Well, Rocky's a nickname, too, for things like Roger.
So I didn't know that.
They could have named him Roger Stone, and then his gangster name could have been Rocky.
Well, I think there was a... wait. No, he's that Trump guy, Roger Stone.
Well, I'm just giving out a name in general. It was a missed opportunity. It doesn't really affect the story, but I just thought it was hilarious that his name's Rocky and he's obsessed with stones. Why not just call him Rocks? It's the same thing.
There's a thing called nominative destination or something like that.
Okay.
It's basically your name. It's a kind of a belief that your name determines your fate or something. So a guy named Rocky Stone would be super tied to rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would make sense. That would make more sense than rocks and then stones. But it's fine. It doesn't really affect the story. It's just a nitpick from my...
I know. I kind of loved it. And this whole time I was thinking about the Flintstones.
Yeah.
I wonder if somebody at Hanna-Barbera was reading this story and he's like, I got an idea. What if instead of a mob boss, he was a prehistoric
construction worker
dad? Yeah. He's he's reading this while watching The Honeymooners.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah.
I like how obsessed he is with the rocks or the stones,
which leads to just the killer shots of when he kills.
Pun intended, right?
Oh my, yes.
I was hoping he was going to kill more people because I wanted to put together a collection of all the murder shots because they're good.
They are so good. This is why I was kind of upset. This is a Batman story.
Yeah.
This could have worked as just a noir, its own thing, EC Comics.
Yeah, Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, something like that.
Two-Fisted Tales.
Yeah, something like that.
Let's go down that rabbit hole. But before we do, I was going to say this story is a perfect 50-50 mix of both of the Batman story tropes that we've been talking about. The first half is the character-driven drama piece.
Yeah.
And then the second half is when Batman comes in, and then it becomes those Joker stories where he's committing the crimes with the same MO over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And you're just why?
Yeah.
But it's not that it's not entertaining. It's just like completely different type of story.
Mm-hmm.
But it's weird to see those two just like smushed together into
Yeah.
one. It feels very like bipolar.
He's almost a tragic figure because he the whole time he's in prison, he has no memory of the crimes he committed, and
Yeah.
he's fully convinced he didn't do the crimes. So
Right.
to him, he's just an innocent man. Like he doesn't even have to rationalize it. He has no idea what he did. And everyone's telling him he's this criminal. They got his fingerprints.
Yep.
And then as soon as he gets out, does his 20 years, and he gets out, and then he gets hit by another stone, and it all comes back to him.
You know what this story made me think of? And I think honestly it's probably a spiritual sequel to the story. Wolf the Crime Master.
Oh, yeah.
Because that also involves getting hit in the head with something and then like your complete personality changing and then getting hit in the head again and it coming back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And you know what also reminds me of? Fred Flintstone.
Yeah, well, obviously.
His whole thing is, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's that. What else do we got to say? I know, I just really like this story. This is a killer story.
I'll read, I think I wrote generally what I just said right there, like character-driven drama thing and like the Joker stories and stuff.
Yeah.
I like the rock puns. I really love the artwork in this one a lot. It's so moody. It's definitely noir. Like, there's no denying it. All the like the shots of the dead guys, like those are straight out of like a 50s movie, even though this predates those. This is like the beginning of noir right here, 1942. Like, yeah, there are noir movies that predate that, but not much.
Yeah, it definitely feels like as a Batman story.
Yeah,
Batman's moving away from this.
You know what I was thinking actually. Kelsey and I have been watching a lot of silent movies, obviously.
Yeah.
M by Fritz Lang.
How does it remind you of M? I've seen M. How does it remind you of M?
Well, no, I'm just not saying this story, but like this type of storytelling reminds me of M because it's like the despicable criminal character and like you're sort of getting a glimpse into his personality.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And it's a noir. M is a noir.
Yeah.
And it's an old enough film to where it could actually have been an influence on these types of comic books. So I like that these are starting to feel more cinematic in a very specific way. Yeah. And the art style represents that. Like, look at the shot of him laying dead on the floor after having been stabbed. Like, look at the tiles. It's exactly how Frank Miller draws his noir. Like, where when the shadow hits the tile, everything goes into negative. Just like with the logo on the splash page. Like the grout becomes blue instead of black. Right. Yeah. Look at like the little vault thingy that he stole stuff out of. Like everywhere where it's shadowed, it's a negative. Yeah. They do a really good job of doing that kind of stuff. Even here, like where Batman and Robin are like working on their new like scientific method, the armoire is done in negative.
I really like that one because it felt it reminds me of Batman 66, actually not noir at all, but with the it's almost a Dutch angle.
Yeah, no, it totally is a Dutch angle.
Yeah.
We got to talk about that scene a little bit too, where Batman reveals a new scientific breakthrough and a new way of finding things.
Definitely. Real quick, back to the kills. Something I didn't mention in the synopsis is that his kills, he wants them to be a kind of ironic, around like themed around rocks. And each time he kills somebody with the rock, on it he etches, "I finally remembered."
Yeah, which is so cryptic.
It is, and like the shots with the 2 kills that he actually managed to get, there's like those are the only words. There's no like thought speech balloons, no dialogue. Yeah. So it just really like sets a really dark tone.
Totally. And the way that these are drawn, like the "I finally remembered" is like up front and center. Yeah. But realistically, he just carved that on a brick and then collapsed an archway onto the guy. Yeah. More realistically, if they found this guy dead, they would be cleaning up the bricks and being like, "Well, good riddance that another gangster's dead." But then they would find that brick while cleaning up, and then start to put it together as more crimes are committed. So
the other thing I liked too was that the mob, they all went different directions. Some of them stayed in crime. A couple of them, the ones that actually didn't die, were
they got clean.
They went straight. Yeah. So those ones actually managed to survive.
Yeah. I was thinking that too when I was reading it, and he killed the first 2 guys. I was like, oh man, what if all these guys went straight and then he's killing these like innocents, whereas like he's still guilty this whole time, but he thought he was innocent? It's like a total flip flop.
I think it's like pretty quick when he actually shows what his crime was, and
he shot a cop.
Yeah, he shot and killed the cop. So I think he was the only one who did the actual murder. So like he's the murderer in this group. Yeah, he totally is. As far as we see. So
you kind of glossed over this in the beginning too, because of the way that the synopsis is written, which is the only downside to like writing the quick like brief synopsises. Which is that like he was committing crimes with his gang. He shot the cop and then was like, "Yeah, take a bullet from Rocky, whatever his name is, right?" Yeah, like he gave his name out.
Rocky Grimes.
And then his like fellow criminals were like, "Why the hell did you say your name? Now they're gonna come after us."
Oh yeah.
And then he, being the asshole, was like, yeah, well, we're in this together. If they're coming after me, they're coming after you. And then one of the guys gets all pissed off and like literally like rips a brick out of the fireplace and chucks it at his head.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
yeah.
not just like he gets hit in the head with a rock.
right,
Like,
that's
they
right.
try to kill him.
Yeah.
And then he wakes back up and has no memory of who he is, and so
Yeah.
they drop him off on the steps of the police station, and like then the police just take him in.
Yeah. Like I said, it's almost tragic, but not quite.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it. This was a fascinating story.
I don't remember because I didn't like keep track of this. I should have, but like the guy who actually threw the brick at his face and like started it all, was that one of the first guys he killed, or was that one of the last guys who went?
You know what? Let me
who,
pull
like,
up.
went straight.
Let me pull up the story.
Because that adds something to it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if that guy actually survived in the end, the guy who caused it all by throwing the brick at him,
Yeah. I mean, if I were Rocky, that's the first one I would have targeted.
I would have made him the first one too, for
But
sure.
then again, maybe you would have made him the last one because, like, you know, he knows his death is coming.
True.
Let's see. Scrolling through the story here. All right, so there's the first page. Him remembering was the flashback. He has a beautiful head of hair when he's 20 years younger.
I know, and then all of a sudden he's bald.
Okay. So the one who throws the rock, he's got a bowler hat and the checkered green jacket.
Yeah, but what's his name?
Let's see. Her name, cop. Okay, well,
It probably doesn't even say.
it'll say it when I think it says them all when he goes for the kills. Oh, he is. Well, is that the one? There. I think
he's wearing the same color jacket.
He's
and
wearing
hat.
yeah, and he's 20 years older, so I think it's supposed to be him because he's wearing. Actually, let's take a look at the other kills. Because that guy does not. The second kill does not look anything like him.
That guy looks like one of the other criminals from that.
Yeah,
you're probably right. I bet you he's the first one he kills.
So it's the first one.
Unfortunately,
he's got a name. It does say the name. First on the list is Lefty Slade.
Lefty Slade.
Yep. So he got his revenge quickly.
Yeah.
And then at least on the first guy and the one who caused all the stuff. So
there's a lot of fun stuff in this issue.
Yeah.
I like that he is holding a giant piece of petrified wood over his head later. That thing would weigh so much.
It would.
There's no way he'd be able to do that.
No. Well, you know what though? He had a lot of time to lift weights.
True. Yeah, he'd probably be ripped from being in prison for so long.
Yeah, like he does look like a pretty like strong like guy.
Yeah, he looks like Hugo Strange because he's so big and he's got that deformed head.
He actually kind of looks like also like Lex Luthor.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
You know, I like in the end, which takes place in like that petrified forest. I'm assuming Batman and Batman are fighting over this log over this chasm.
Yeah,
and we're supposed to assume that it's a petrified log, so it's already slippery, right? And then it starts to rain, and then like the slickness of it because of the rain, he just slips and falls to his own death.
Yeah,
Batman doesn't even do anything; he just falls and dies.
For the most part, it's just like self-defense on Batman's part.
Yeah, but I thought that was a fitting end. And then you put this in the panels too, the rainbow. They go to, I don't remember exactly what it is.
They go to
like
a museum.
An art show or a museum?
It's a museum.
And they have a giant rainbow made of gems somehow.
Yeah.
That goes into a pot of gold. And Robin like body serves down the rainbow and kicks the guy in the face. Thought that was pretty
That was really awesome. Yeah, like I said, the art is just like killer in this.
Yeah.
There's also, I didn't put it in the panels, but there's a section where like they're fighting in like an Arabian Nights part, but it's like a model of like Saudi Arabia.
Oh yeah, that was
so
cool. It's like Godzilla.
Yeah, it's almost like the big guy, a little person, but they're both big and like
Yep, but they find a way to do it in the actual book and not just on the splash page.
Yeah, and then they've done that something similar before.
Yeah, the flames looked really cool. The scene where Batman and Robin are chasing him in the boat, and then he pours oil into the ocean and lights the ocean on fire.
Yeah,
they're really cheesy. They don't look like real flames, but they look really cool.
Yeah,
and then you get Batman and Robin in silhouette while the flames are engulfing their boat. I love that. And then there was one more thing just the close up of his gravestone in the end.
Yeah.
Like that is like the most definitive end you can ever put on a book, is a close up of someone's tombstone.
Which it kind of sucks. I wish he did survive and wasn't like rogue. He would have had potential. They could have like another thing Spider-Man eventually took. They could have called him Tombstone.
Yeah.
And gone on with that. Yeah.
Have him come back from the dead and he's like his skin like rocks.
Do we have any final thoughts on this story?
No, I really enjoyed this one a lot. I thought the artwork was great. The criminal, like the villain, was well developed. Just cheesy enough. It had both of the Batman story archetypes, which is cool to see combined, and all the cryptic noir visuals. Like, it was a good one. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I want more stories like this one. This one was just a delight to read.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike the next one, which...
It rocked.
Yes. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll talk about Destination Unknown. All right, we are back to Destination Unknown, and how we're going to do this is slightly unknown.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, so I decided, okay, I told Mike, like, oh, I'll do the synopsis for both of these, and I figured I'll try it with this new, format where we're experimenting on. And I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh, this is difficult.
It's not going to work because this is a whodunit, or at least it's trying to be a whodunit.
Yeah. Whodunits are kind of hard to put, like, the bullet points in because it's all about, like, small little details.
But the mystery in the details,
Yeah, who, what, why, where, and then it's just kind of, yeah.
Let's go over the splash page and the blurb, and then we'll get into it.
Okay.
So, do you want to take over the splash page and blurb on this one?
The splash page is actually really good. And for once, Batman is the giant on this one.
Yeah. And it does make it out to be like a Agatha Christie murder mystery.
It does, and that's actually weirdly symbolic. Okay, so Batman is basically like doing his like cape pose. He's got the cape over his face.
Mm-hmm.
He's giant and standing over a train yard, and there is a train going underneath his legs. And then Robin's kind of like standing there behind him, like kind of astonished. And then out of the train, like the light on the train, the front of the train, are spotlights, which highlight like it goes in like 5 different beams.
It's the 5 different individuals.
Yeah, the 5 different
the
like
groups.
The parties to the story, which is the nurses, Detective Guffey and John Keyes, the hobo, I can't remember, the Claiborne and his assistant.
Yeah, the writer and his assistant.
Yeah,
he writes for like that magazine. It's like Weird Tales or something.
Wait, Duffy's here twice, or is that like a gangster?
No, there's a gangster who's on board too.
Okay, and yeah, so that's pretty much that. Let me. Oh man, I wish we had like train sound effects on the soundboard. All right, let me go for the blurb here. All aboard for the surprise trip of your life, with as weird an assortment of fellow passengers as ever rode a cracked chamber. The rich and renowned, tricky but true man, the strangely silent figure, the iron lung, the overambitious detective, and last but not least, the mysterious hobo riding through the rods. The bell clangs, the whistle shrills, the hand of fate yanks the throttle wide, and it takes all the steely nerve and smashing strength of the battling Batman and the daredevil Robin to check a roaring dash to disaster in this super speedy story, Destination Unknown.
Yeah. I like Daredevil Robin.
Yeah.
Rather than the Boy Wonder.
Yeah, that's actually a good one.
I mean, that's what the Boy Wonder means anyways, that he's a daredevil.
Yeah.
He's an acrobat. He's a stuntman. Daredevil just sounds cool, and this predates actual Daredevil, so you totally skipped a line. You did like the dyslexic thing that I do a lot.
Yeah.
Because it said, ever rode a crack transcontinental flyer, meet the tragic young prisoner bound for the lethal gas chamber.
Oh, okay. Missed that. Oh, well.
The tragic young prisoner.
Yep. All right, so the way we're going to do this one is a little different. We don't really have a synopsis. I tried to do that, and I was just like, no. So we're just kind of going to go over it. We're going to like look through it and talk about the events as they unfold here.
Mm-hmm.
Conversational style. But yeah, so first page. I'll take the first page. You take the next page. I think that might work.
Let me pull it up here and have it ready.
Okay. Do you have? Okay. I didn't. Sorry.
All good.
So the first page kind of sets it up. It starts at a train yard, and we see the conductor asking people to go on board, and he goes through the train. And we're seeing the individuals involved. The first one is a guy named Clyde Claiborne, and they say he's a collector of oddities, I think he's supposed to be like wealthy or rich.
Mm-hmm.
And he's famed as he likes oddities, and he's got his like assistant with him.
Well, he writes stories about odd things.
Oh, okay, and he
It's
basically
called Tricky But True.
tricky but true. Oh, okay, so he's got like maybe like a newspaper.
Yeah, like an article or something
Yeah.
he writes.
Um, and he asks the conductor. He's like, "Hey, I'll give you $1,000 if you can bring me an oddity." And the conductor's like, "Oh, okay." So he goes to this one room with like these two nurses in it, and they have a man in an iron lung, which is pretty odd. I don't know if that's how odd it is for that time. I mean, that's like the height of iron lung stuff.
Yeah.
But they're like, no, we can't bring him out. The slightest disturbance will kill him. And then, so basically, the conductor goes to another room on the train, and he sees Detective Guffey. He's like a police detective,
Mm-hmm.
and he's chained. He's handcuffed to a would-be murderer named John Keyes, who escaped from a California prison. And Detective Guffey, he's like a stout, fat, detective guy, bowler hat, got a Hitler mustache, which wasn't. I guess it was a
With
Hitler
the
mustache.
Chaplin mustache, too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but it would have
This
been
is
associated with Hitler at the time.
This is when people actually had that mustache, and
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't quite taboo, as it would be in like a year or two.
Right.
Yeah, he's smoking a cigar.
Well, can I just say, like, we'll go to the next page.
Yeah,
Like,
no.
the-
Interject anytime.
They're using the conductor
Mhm.
as like a way to introduce all the groups of people.
Yeah,
Like you can see this clearly in your head as a movie when you're reading it. The setup is actually really good.
Yeah.
It's the payoff that where it fails. Like they show the train, everybody's getting on board. You follow the conductor around as he checks in with people and asks them what's
Mhm.
going on because he's hoping that he's going to get rich by coming up with some weird story,
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then as you're slowly introduced, they're dropping hints of like, or they're dropping these little bits of like sketchiness. You're
Mhm.
like, oh, the guy in the iron lung can't talk because he might die. Well, we don't even know what he looks like.
Yeah,
Like, oh, this guy, he's wanted for murder that he says he didn't commit. Well, maybe he did.
maybe.
Like they're
Yeah.
setting up this little bit of mystery and intrigue with everybody.
Yeah, and so that also when something sketchy happens on board, he's the first to be blamed.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have the next page up?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. And I guess I think as we do this, we could just like talk about the panels too, if like one of them you really like, or
Yeah.
one of them, as we are about to get to, is a big what?
A lot of these, none of these panels really like stood out to me. Okay,
Yeah.
like, maybe like 3 did. I think I put like 3 or 4.
Yeah,
in
this
there.
isn't the art is immediate downgrade from the last one.
But yeah, so I'll go over this page in brief, and then we can talk about that one panel
Yeah.
in question. So this page shows some guy like pulling up to the train, and then he's being chased by a cop, and then he jumps under the train and like grabs onto the bottom of the train so that he can like hitch a ride. And we're supposed to assume that he like gets into the train somehow from the bottom of the train while it's moving.
Yeah, which like, however he did that, like very impressive.
I'm sure there's like an emergency hatch or something, but
Maybe,
I just don't
yeah.
know enough about trains. Like a way to work on the bottom of the train from in the train.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the conductor kind of like scratching his head. And then it shows a shot, like this widescreen shot of like all of the guests sort of in the same room to establish that they're all in the same train car and they're being served by these waiters. And then it cuts to the guy back underneath the train who's going to try to make his way onto the train. And then we see this really badass shot of a train zooming towards the reader with the silhouetted figure on top, like climbing its way into the train. And then the final shot of the page is that shadowy silhouetted figure knocking out the actual like engineer of the train so that he can take control.
Mm-hmm. And the panel in question, is the shot where they're all in dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And the very, very questionable thing is the waiters.
Yeah.
Are African American people, and this time of the 20th century, they did not draw them very well.
Yeah, they're blackface basically. Like,
Yeah.
you can't really sugarcoat it. There's no way to not see it.
Yeah.
Like, they look so ridiculous. Like,
It's very racist. It's very stereotypical.
yeah.
Like, I mean, this wasn't the only comic at the time doing that, but
No, but still, it's never been done before in Batman, and all of a sudden they just
Yeah.
whip out the racism, like,
Yeah, the weird
in one
thing-
panel, and they don't even like make any mention of it.
yeah, there haven't been very many black people in Batman comics up at this point. But I do remember specifically there was the one where Batman goes to Africa,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty sure the African people in that story weren't drawn nearly as stereotypical as this.
No, they weren't like drawn great or anything, but like
Yeah.
they looked like normal people. Like
Yeah.
these literally look like little blackface dolls. Like they're
Yeah.
so badly drawn on
Yeah.
purpose. And I know that this one's drawn by Bob Kane. I looked it up. I tried to see
Yeah.
if there was any ghost artists or anything. Like, no, he drew
No.
this.
Yeah, it's really jarring, especially like they like you, especially compared to like the actual like the white people in the shot.
Mm-hmm.
Like they all look like humans, and I don't know. Yeah, it's just
Well,
not right.
and for the most part, all the other characters are white.
Yeah.
Actually, they are all white.
They are,
And
all,
they're
yeah.
all wearing colors, except for the two in the background. And then the waiters are wearing all white, and they're really dark skinned. So they pop off the page, which makes it
Yeah.
even harder to ignore. So
Yeah, it's
shame on you, Bob Kane.
it's all awful. Rotten hell, Bob Kane.
Like, I know it's ridiculous. I was showing this to Kelsey, and then I like showed her the Bob Kane gravestone.
Oh God.
Yeah, I know.
All right, so on to the next page. This one, like, so basically, the figure in the who like basically went after he knocked out the dude, the engineer, he basically speeds the train up,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have like I don't even know what this guy would be called, what his job is, but there's like somebody out like by a train yard or whatever, and he's holding a lantern. And he's like, they're making it very clear that this train needs to slow down.
Yeah, like it's like speed. He
Yeah.
just like jacked it up to like full
Yeah.
throttle, and
Yeah, so basically, he needs to slow it down. Somebody in the train's like, "What the fuck is going on?" The engineer's gone, he's gone crazy.
mm-hmm.
And then they telegraph to Commissioner Gordon that we need Batman. So
it reminds me of like a Max Fleischer Superman thing, because they're like, the train is going too fast. It's gonna hurtle off the tracks if it goes around the corner.
yeah,
Superman would totally be much more suited to save the day here.
he would be. Yeah, there's no logical way that Batman would get here in time.
No,
But
especially because they're out on the lake in a boat.
yeah,
Continue.
yeah, no, they're So Gordon, he gets the telegraph. He puts out the bat signal. And Bruce and Dick are just like having a leisurely time out in like the middle of a lake, I guess, on like just a little like wooden boat, and they see the bat signal, and they decide they need to go out and that.
I think it's pretty funny though. I like those two panels because Bruce is like doing all the rowing, and Dick's just laying there like, this is nice.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the bat signal goes up, and they're both like hauling ass to get in, and
Mhm.
it's creating waves everywhere. And then this other couple on the lake that we don't even see is just like, who the hell do they think they are?
Yeah, I like that Dick is in the first panel. Dick is like, this is the life. I don't want to do anything. And then
Yeah.
they see the bat signal, and he's like, all right, action.
Yeah, I know. I like being lazy. No, I like kicking ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
On to the next page.
I would imagine them being out of breath in this first panel.
Yeah, like getting there on yeah.
It's a good thing they have a plane.
They do, which is how they get there.
Yeah. But still, like, they literally show up as it's right about to cut the corner, and somehow they're able to stop this train
Mm-hmm.
in time.
Yeah.
It looks like it's like, what, like a quarter mile from hitting that corner already? Not even?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, they get there on the train. I think Robin is flying the plane, and Batman jumps onto the plane. I mean,
Mhm.
onto the train. And there's a mysterious, they're silhouetted against the full moon, and the figure shoots at Batman. Batman doesn't really have like a chance to go and like fight the guy, so he jumps into the front cabin or whatever it's called.
He, like, slides off the
Yeah.
train and in through a window.
Yep, in an attempt to take the brake, cut the brakes. I mean, start the brakes.
Well, actually, they put some logic into here, too. Let's see if I can figure out exactly where it is. Oh, yeah, right here on this first panel on the next page. Batman's sitting in the engineer's seat, and he says, first to shut the electric current, now to put on the air brakes gradually so the wheels won't rip up the track. So,
Mhm.
like, he knows that you can't just pull the brake like they do in movies, because then the
Yeah.
whole train will just crash into itself and it'll fall off anyways.
Yeah,
It has to be done in steps and slowly, gradually,
yeah.
which I thought was really smart of him.
Batman is a very smart guy.
Yep.
So after that, Batman, so he sets the brakes up, and then he looks in the train, and he sees that the motorman or the engineer, he's got like the motorman slugged. That means he figures out, this is deliberate.
Yeah.
This was no accident, which obviously the guy on top of the thing shooting at you. Of course it was.
Yeah.
And then he calls Robin, and then he tells him what to do. Let's see, message received.
you
Yeah,
notice-
so they're looking for whoever did this.
He's using some kind of new transmitter to communicate with Robin,
Yeah,
because they're like talking into their hands.
it
Or at
almost
least Batman is.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now, and like when I read it earlier, to me, it like my brain just filled in that like Robin has like a little radio attached to his head, like a mic set.
Yeah.
But those just like speed lines or just like lines on the
He's
window glass.
definitely talking into a microphone that's like built into the bat plane.
Yeah.
But then Batman's talking into his hand. Like
Yeah.
he's holding something, but we can't see it.
Yep. All right. So after that, what's going on here? Gopher Junction, ordinarily a whistle stop. Tonight is the scene of tense excitement. So there's stuff happening outside of Okay, so
There's
basically
fireworks going off or something.
Yeah. Well, no, those aren't fireworks. That's the
Is that the train coming in?
So they basically take the train to Gopher Junction, and they stop just so they can assess the situation. And this is where I was like, what's going on here? So after they stop, a guy in a checkered, like, just he's the hobo, right?
Yeah.
He basically he's about to hitch on to the train, and Batman catches him, and Batman's like, I don't know if you're part of this, but I'm gonna tie you up and do my investigation.
And I'll get back to you.
And I'll get back to you. If you're part of it, then yeah, I'll arrest you. But whatever.
I like how he ties him up and then picks him up like a child and then throws him inside of a train car.
I know. So this is at this point where Bruce Wayne buys a ticket for the plane. Or the plane was
For
the train.
Planes,
Yeah.
trains.
And then Dick, he basically gets on the train himself as like a newspaper comic salesman.
Yeah, he buys a bunch
Salesboy.
of comic books and resells them to people on board.
Yeah. Which is kind of weird, but hey, kids
It
gotta
gets
make a living.
weirder.
Yeah. So in the baggage car, Claiborne's assistant like goes inside and he sees, the hobo all tied up. She opens up unties him
Mm-hmm.
because she's like, what the hell? I don't get it. And the guy's like, he didn't give me a chance.
He's like,
yeah. So the train starts moving and he jumps out of the train and she's like, what the hell was that? Did I do something wrong?
Yeah.
She thinks, she probably like,
It's free to criminal.
yeah, afraid of criminal. And then, but he jumps onto another train,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, yeah. So this is like, wow, I was like super confused. So I think this is the train that Bruce Wayne and Dick are on.
Yeah.
And Bruce Wayne and Dick, they're like playing coy, like as if they don't know each other. And the engineer's like, oh, hey, I know you, Mr. Wayne. I've heard of you. And he even asks him if he can he's got any like oddities to show the guy. And Bruce Wayne's like, there isn't much excitement in my life, but I'll try to think of something.
Yeah.
And then this is where Dick comes in and he's like trying to sell a copy of World's Finest and Batman.
He's ripping people off is what he's doing. These
Yeah.
comics sell for 10 cents back in the day, and he's selling them for 15 cents.
Ooh, you know what? He's got to make his own profit.
Well, this is all a scam, though.
Yeah.
Just for them to get on board, but he's making money off this scam.
And you know what? Bruce Wayne happens to buy a copy. He says it's his favorite magazine.
This is like the biggest wink so far in these comic books.
Yeah. We were talking last episode with the
About Superman?
Superman. Yeah.
They just confirmed it right here.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is Superman, he obviously exists in this world, and they make Superman comics.
Yep. And Superman.
And Joel
movies.
Schuster and Jerry Siegel.
Yeah, they're the writers of the Superman comics.
They're just the writers. Yeah, they made the comics, but they didn't create Superman within this universe.
Yeah. I'll tell you something else. I'll tell you one more thing because I just found out about this.
Mm.
In 4 years, there's going to be a Batman issue published where Bob Kane is revealed to exist within the Batman universe and be the creator of the Batman comic books.
Oh, okay. That's the rabbit hole goes deeper.
And you're going to love this too. It literally shows things that were created by Jerry Robinson and then gives Bob Kane credit for single-handedly creating them.
Oh, good lord.
Like actual artwork drawn
Wow.
by Jerry Robinson, and Bob Kane's there drawing it.
Oh,
It's
that's
bad.
That's awful.
Yeah, I'll send it to you later.
Yeah. So on to the next page is where this the hobo, he basically takes out one of the guards, just kind of chokes him out. I don't think he kills him. He says he's got some unfinished business. And meanwhile, we see Detective Guffey. He's blacked out, and he's not handcuffed to the John Keyes, the prisoner. So, anyways, Dick he's using this comic book thing to just kind of snoop around, right?
Yeah.
So he goes and visits Claiborne. He goes and he tries to sell something to the nurses who are acting kind of funky.
Mm-hmm.
Claiborne treats him nicely. Let's see, maybe give me an oddity. He's asking for an oddity, but he's like, I got nothing. The nurses are like, get out of here. Scuffy is like knocked out, and he's like, well, "That's weird. The prisoner's gone."
Mm-hmm.
And then Dick reports to Bruce, tells him what's going on. They suit up as Batman and Robin, and they think, "Where's the man in the iron lung? He could be dying." So they decide to investigate the nurse's room.
Before we get into there,
Yeah,
this single panel up here at the top where the hobo is like choking out the conductor or whatever.
yeah,
And he says, "Sorry, chum, but I've got some unfinished business." It made me think for a second. I know he's not Bruce Wayne, but it made me think for a second like this could have been like a Bruce Wayne in disguise situation.
Yeah.
He was the homeless guy
yeah,
very easily. Bruce Wayne's always calling people chum.
yeah. I think he's the only other person who's ever called anybody.
Yeah, I've never
chum.
seen anyone say chum before.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh man, they could totally have had a superhero who was like posing as a hobo that just rode the rails and fought crime everywhere he went.
Dang, that's a good concept.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. These old Batman comics.
Depression era superhero hobo.
Yeah. Got no money, but he can still fight crime.
Yeah. That seems like something Alan Moore would have done. Like,
Yeah.
it wouldn't really trippy. I don't know. Anyway, so they go into the room with the guy with the iron lung, and the nurses aren't there, and Batman basically opens up the iron lung, and he sees that it's not oxygen they're pumping in, it's poison gas, and he'd been dead if he was like breathing it for like another minute.
It's kind of ballsy of him to just open the iron lung when this guy's in here, and it could possibly kill the guy.
Yeah.
But here's the another Agatha Christie element, which is that they're trying to kill somebody with poison on board a train.
Mm-hmm.
Agatha Christie novels always end with somebody being poisoned,
Yeah.
and a couple of them take place on trains.
Very notably, yes. So they're like, where the fuck are those nurses? So they get on the roof, the ceiling, the roof of the train, and see the two nurses running off. One of the nurses, like, they have a shootout. One of the nurses actually manages to hit Batman, and in the arm.
This is instance number 3 of Batman being shot, or 4.
He's been shot a lot, I think.
But I mean, like, where actually it hits him, and then he's like, "Oh no, I can't make it," and then Robin has to come in and save the day.
I don't know. I haven't kept shot. You know, it'd be interesting
I think
to
it's
go back.
3 or 4.
Yeah,
it seems like a lot, but I'm pretty sure like he's been shot at a bunch of times.
Yeah.
But there's only been a couple times where he's been shot and then he's bleeding, and then he's like, "Oh no."
I mean, in that one story, he's like, they put like at least 5 bullets in him.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's still, to me, that just counts as one instance of him being shot, though. Yeah.
Anyway, so Robin, what's going on with Robin here?
Oh, sorry, real quick. This where Batman's getting shot, and he's like, "Oh, he got me."
Yeah.
It makes me think of The Mask. You know,
Oh, yes.
"You got my partner."
Yeah. Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so Robin basically kind of like does a little tricky Rooney thingy with one of those like those post stops.
Mm-hmm. He like spins around it.
Yeah, he spins around, he takes out the nurses, and then Batman, who has already 100% recovered from the bullet, let's see, they decide, okay, we got to stop the train. Yeah, because so somehow there's going to be like this is one of the other things that can be. Okay, there's a train up front, and they're about to do a head-on collision. So Batman rushes over, and in the weirdest thing, like this was like one of those like what the fuck moments for me. Batman he rushes to the front of the train, and then he manages to use the headlight of the train.
Oh yeah,
to turn it into a bat symbol, using the bat symbol on his chest.
So Matt Reeves, you're not the first person to have Batman rip his symbol off his chest and use it as something else.
Yeah. I was thinking of weirdly. I wasn't thinking of that. I was weirdly thinking of Superman 2.
Oh, where he rips the symbol off and throws it. And
Yeah,
yeah.
There's just a thing they never explain, never do again.
Nope, totally ridiculous. It makes no sense.
But anyways, they see the bat signal, and they're able to break both trains just in time to prevent the head-on collision. That looks like Batman's like sitting in the middle of them, and he's able to like go arm to arm, and they're both like
it looks like he's trying to Spider-Man 2 like stop the train with his bare hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the reverse, I guess, because he's literally trying to. No, I guess it is the same. He's trying to stop it like that.
Yeah.
But what if it just hadn't perfectly stopped? Batman would have been crushed between trains.
So I don't think he's perfectly stopping. I think he's just like standing that like he jumped off the other one, and he's like standing there, and it's just kind of showing how close they are.
You think he's like doing that exhausted pose where he's like holding himself
It
up?
actually does look like he's more exhausted. But the fact that like they're that close, it just shows how like the danger almost happened.
I love that shot of him on the front of the train with his cape blowing, and he's like trying to rip his symbol off and stick it over there.
Mm-hmm.
It seems very dangerous.
Yep.
Also, I noticed a weird continuity error when he gets shot. when he's shot in the first panel, it's clearly like in his arm, and his arm is bleeding. And then when it shows him in the close up, it's his chest, like next to his shoulder.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think that the splotch here is supposed to be the blood or the shot. Yeah.
But then it looks like he's grabbing his bicep, and like the blood's all on his shoulder and bicep when he first gets shot.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Anyways, then we get to the last page where basically all of it gets unveiled. Destination unknown. We have a story of that. Let's see. Okay, there's a press reporter who basically like gives out like all what happened.
It's like a very Hitchcockian thing to do.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It turns out that the hobo is John Keyes, or no, wait, he's Ken Thorne.
Yeah.
The president of the railroad. Okay, so yeah.
He's like Bruce Wayne. He got bored of being a fancy rich railroad owner and just decided to be a hobo and ride the rails.
Yeah.
But now he met a beautiful woman, and they're probably gonna get married.
Yep. Let's see. Guffey lost his guy, I think. I'm super confused with the story. I don't know. John Keyes is no longer a murder suspect. Okay, so John Keyes wasn't the murderer.
Mm-hmm.
And then they arrest the 2 nurses, and then Claiborne's assistant is now going to marry Ken Thorne, and that's it.
I like 2 things in this last page stick out to me as pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
One is like where the newspaper guy, the press guy, he's like talking to the woman, Mrs. Hibbs, and then the guy who's actually the president of the railroad company.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, so you're gonna marry this hobo? And then she's like, no, he's not a hobo. But then she says, we met in the baggage coach.
Yeah, I thought that
it's
too.
Like, what?
That raises more questions,
right? Like I know he like jumped out, but you make it seem like you guys got to know each other back there.
Yeah,
like something else happened
very intimately.
And then the last one, the very last panel of here is pretty funny because like the conductor is just like, nothing ever happens here, because he's completely unaware of everything that just happened. And then Batman and Robin are behind his back making like little okay like signs.
Yeah.
Like
look what all happened. Yeah.
It makes it feel like, unlike most panels in the comic books where it's like clearly centered on what they want you to see, that somebody just sort of like tilted the camera off to the side to like record a reaction shot. It's almost like a behind the scenes, like a blooper.
Yeah.
It's really funny. It's well done.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's very inconsistent. Unlike the other one where it's like 2 different types of storytelling that work together well, this is 2 different types of storytelling that don't work together well. Yeah. It's like trying to combine like that superhero drama and like that silent movie like villain on a train with the Agatha Christie murder mystery set on the train. Although I know that this probably predates Agatha Christie.
No.
Does it not?
No,
I don't know how old she is.
Agatha Christie was like, I don't remember her, like her heyday was like 1920s.
Okay, so no, then it's definitely clearly inspired by Agatha Christie.
Yeah.
But just like mixing the murder mystery element or whatever with the superhero element for some reason doesn't work in this story. I feel like it could easily be done really well. It just doesn't work here.
Yeah.
It falls apart about halfway through.
Yeah, this story was a big letdown after reading 17 Stones.
Talking about it makes it seem more fun than it actually is.
Yeah, which I think this format kind of worked.
Yeah, for ones that are hard to write the synopsis for, it works. Because it allows you to enjoy the story a little bit more, a little bit more back and forth.
Yeah, so let us know if this one worked out, or if we just seemed a little overly rambly.
But next time
we're gonna do. Oh, I gotta bring up the Google Doc again. I think I set the music up too early.
It's all good.
All right, Batman 14, the case Batman failed to solve.
Yes.
And Detective Comics 69, the Harlequins hoax.
Wonder what that one's about.
I wonder what. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Tom.
And I'm Mike.
And this is Become a Bat. Good night.
Good night.